Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is News and Week in Review. We're going to dive into a few assorted news pieces, the topic of the week, the games I played, the week in review, all the usual things, and links as usual to everything down below. But first, we're going to go ahead and start off with something I already mentioned this weekend, Two Back Not To Back, which is Keymaster Games is in the middle of an internal lawsuit. Not a heavy thing to go into, just loosely to, it's, well, I should rephrase that. It's not that it's not heavy to go into, it's that this is a very much a he said, she said situation with like various lawsuits back and forth amongst the various co-founders, owners, partners, all of that. And so where this is, what the facts are, I don't have any of that. I have links to various, sites that talk about it, or alternatively, you can read through the actual lawsuit or countersuit and all that stuff. But ultimately, all we really know is there's something going on at Keymaster. Take that as a will and, act accordingly and responsibly as you back various things. With that, we're going to go ahead to far more exciting news. We have Apiary from Stonemaier Games. Apiary is their newest game. This is a futuristic game in which bees evolved past humans and started settling various planets while somehow extending their life form, but at the cost of having to hibernate more often and more frequently. Apiary is going to be coming out at some point-ish, some point. I don't have exact timing, but say, if you enjoy Teotihuacan, Honeybuzz, Sulkin, and or Euphoria, we're excited for you to play Apiary. So, that's coming from Stonemaier Games. I will have coverage on the channel for this at some point, but it's not coming out until it looks like October 4th is going to be when it shows up. And so, Apiary from Stonemaier Games, their newest title, and very, very different theme than anything else. So I guess they've done, sci-fi, and they've done nature, so this is just a combination of them. From there, we have Chip Theory Games has the Game Found Feast. This is going to be showing up. Well, it showed up last week, and I'm filming this right now. It's showing up tomorrow. But the Game Found Feast with Chip Theory Games, basically they're releasing or talking about their next titles. Talk about Tanglewood. They're talking about Roth. They're talking about Hoplo and all the new stuff. They're talking about the various new things coming from Chip Theory Games. Stay tuned if you want to, see more information about all things Chip Theory Games coming up over the next year. Speaking of Chip Theory Games, we have Riffle is back. I think this is just a coincidence and timing-wise, because basically Riffle is a character that magically shows up, I think it's every 1500 solves or something like that. But Riffle infrequently shows up for you to buy him for 48 hours, and starting at September 7th and ending at September 9th, which is today, you have like an hour or two. You do not have long. Depending on when you're watching this video, you have a very short time frame to actually go ahead and buy Riffle. So go ahead and buy Riffle, I guess, or try to if you want Riffle. I haven't played with Riffle. I was like, I need Riffle now. I got it right away, and then I proceeded to not play with Riffle right away. But I do want to try him out at some point. But anyways, Riffle from Too Many Bones from Chip Theory Games is going to be available, or was available and is available for another hour or so, depending when you watch this video. We also have Disney Lorcana. This is one I touched upon briefly this past week in a Q&A, but Lorcana looks like it's going to be having some degree of reprint of the first chapter, which has people excited and very upset at the same time. Basically, Lorcana had a print run with a lot of Lorcana, but not nearly enough Lorcana to be able to actually meet the demand for Lorcana, which happens. The way someone put it, which is very true, is when you have something like this, you either print too much and you're a failure that nobody wants, or you print too little and you're horribly mismanaged and you couldn't anticipate market demand. There is no middle ground unless you perfectly hit the nail on the head, and that's very, very unlikely. Lorcana went with the route where there wasn't enough available, and scalpers bought it left, right, and center, and jacked the market up on Lorcana. Ravensburger announced that they are going to reprint some of the first chapter stuff. So there's going to be more content coming in place for the first chapter, which has people who want to play the game very happy and excited, and people who bought stuff at exorbitant prices based on their perceived limit to the product. Those people are understandably not too happy. My sympathy lies with the first crowd more than the second crowd, but I am sympathetic to both crowds, just more so the first crowd. So I'm all for this reprinting. Then again, my opinion here matters not. It's just an interesting tidbit in the greater scheme of the universe. We also have over here, we have Ivy Games. Ivy Games has been putting up page after page after page of various things for Mythic Mischief. They have the Dice Tower in, they had Daniel Standring in, they had, myself, Professor Meg, Jenna from Board Game Garden, they had the Brothers Murph and Grant Lyons, so they have had a bunch, and Jed Devon as well. A whole bunch of people have been at the Ivy Studios the Ivy Studios headquarters, playing through Mythic Mischief, high stakes hijinks, and basically of the newest one, or one of the newest videos that went up, is myself playing against Jenna, going through a trying to see who can beat each other in Mythic Mischief. Gnomes versus fairies, I want to say it was Gnomes versus fairies, but if you want to see that or any of the wide assortment of Mythic Mischief content, Ivy Games has you covered on their channel. Then we have over here, speaking of various other videos, I guess. That was a very bad tangent. We have over on Board Game Geek, we have Get Ready for Solo Mode with Foster the Meeple. Basically, it looks like BGG is working with Foster the Meeple, specifically Jamie, possibly both, in terms of having some degree of solo content coming to Board Game Geek through them. So if you want to see Jamie play through some Final Girl over on BGG, you can check that out. Then we have over here, whatever this is, we have the board game and card game market size. Is basically some stats regarding the board game and card game market and how it's going to be trending, or how it's anticipated to be trending over the next, 10 years or 7 years, I guess, 6 years. Over the next 6 years, how things are trending. Short version is good, but with caveats. So if you want to read through a whole lot of market research on how board games and card games are doing, it is actually very interesting stuff. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there as far as how the market constantly adapts or adjusts in different ways. COVID threw a major, spike into things in terms of it actually increased board game sales very heavily, but then also saw increased board game costs, and that combined with, the world opening up led to a kind of downturn, but that's a downturn that, how relative is that downturn to actually going down versus compensating for prior years? There's a lot of interesting things going on in the general market and how things are doing. Overall, board games, tabletop, all those things, that's a growing sphere, it's a growing market, it has been for a very long time, but not without a whole lot of question marks and just interesting things happening along the way. Then we have over here, speaking of stats, if you like stats, this is something I've never really talked about, but I've known existed, and only just today thought to share it with you all, which is over on Board Game Geek. There's a top 100 analysis that goes on a regular basis. So I'll have a link to everything down below, like I mentioned already, but this covers kind of what's going on in the top 100. It's a monthly trend. So for example, we talk about, the biggest move in the top 100 is Frosthaven in terms of jumping 6 spots up to 59. The highest drop is Le Havre, dropping 3 spots to 65. So it looks like, Frosthaven's passing through Le Havre as it goes up on the tracks. We have top 100 debuts, which is none this month, meaning nothing else is new to the top 100 this month. There are no changes to the top 10. The top 5 winning movers are Cascadia, Kanban, Maracaibo, Frosthaven, and Heat, which basically all titles that are slowly moving up. And then we have the newest highest peaks. We have Cascadia at 46, Kanban at 52, Frosthaven at 59, Heat at 63, Search for Planet X at 91. That's basically, these have all hit a highest ever for those games, and that's basically what's going on. Then we have a happy chart birthday for the Gallerist, which I don't actually know what that means, but maybe it means that it's been on the chart for 7 years. Or 7 months, I don't actually know. But either way, it's kind of just a breakdown of analysis of the top 100 and how that evolves on BGG over time. I personally find that information very interesting, but you may or may not, but it's there for you to know about if you want to. And with that, let's go ahead and talk about the topic of the week. Topic of the week is nothing particularly crazy or big this week. Just the nature of chasing games, chasing new games, when you already know that you have games that you love. The specific inspiration for this is playing Vindication a week and a half ago. I played Vindication a week and a half ago, and was once again reminded just how much I love that game. There are many games in my collection that have that effect on me. There are many games where I sit down and I play it, and I'm like, dear Lord, why do I not play you more? Games like Rurik, games like DEI, games like Expeditions, games like Unsettled, games like, I don't know, Inish and Cyclades. There are so many incredible experiences that I play them, and I'm like, I should play you more. I don't know why I don't play you more. And then I return to the pile of an exceedingly number of tons of games out there that are mediocre, potentially new games to the market that are totally fine. They're not bad. There's nothing wrong with them. They're solid 3.5s. And they're 3.5s that don't excite me the way many other games do. And I don't think that's just a me thing. If it's just a me thing, I could write it off. Hey, I'm a content creator. I play a lot of these games, so I can talk about the new games, so you can find out which new games are interesting, which new games are less interesting, and all that stuff. And I could use that as justification, although you can be a content creator without covering as many new games as I do, so it's not necessarily hand in hand inherently, but at least there's a motivation on my end. But before, as a content creator, I did this too. And many of you are not content creators do this too. You're constantly chasing the newest thing. You're spending money on the newest thing. You're watching videos on the newest thing. You're subscribing to channels like mine and Dice Tower and whoever in terms of just trying to find out what the newest, latest, greatest thing that you can spend your money on rather than enjoying what you have. It's not a criticism. It's just a conversation. Why do we do this? Why do we seek out the new when we already have great games that we acknowledge to ourselves we're not spending enough time on? And I talked about it in one video a long time ago. I think it was called The Hunt for the Perfect Game, if I recall correctly. It is one of my favorite videos that I've ever done on the channel. And it talks about why I keep chasing things. It talks about the fact that the only reason I can say that I love Vindication, the only reason I can say that I love Rurik, is because once upon a time when I had games I loved, I kept chasing those games. This year, new to me, I have DEI and Expeditions, games I adore, and I wouldn't have those in my collection if not for the fact that I'm still always chasing something new. But ratios are important. A few weeks ago, I did a video on stats and, you know, percentages of how many new games you can play, how many old games, all that kind of thing. Just a little fun little video, just a passing fancy of a thought that I decided to do. But it talks about that nature of balance, of playing the new, of playing the old. But you're still chasing new stuff when you know you have things you're not giving enough attention to. And to a certain extent, we should be self-filtering more. Again, I could give myself a pass to a degree because of content creation, and I do to a degree. But we should be self-selecting more. We should be finding the ratios of the games we love and spending more time with those things that we know bring us joy and spending a drop less time hunting new things while still giving ourselves the leeway to hunt new things. In that video a few weeks ago, I talked about the nature of, you know, filtering on BGG around different rankings. You know what? You can do that, but you can filter based on a 7.7 instead of a 7.5, and you'll find that the amount of games you have to look and discover and play, they shrink drastically with that that 0.2 difference will drastically shift the market as far as how many games there are that are actually calling for your attention. Find as many ways as possible as being self-selective, but also keep exploring the new. Both things are true, and only if you want to, obviously. All of these things are only if you want to. If you're happy doing whatever you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. If you find yourself like me, constantly wanting to chase new things, but also being like, wanting to play more of the games you love, then you have to find that happy balance. It's one I've never truly found. It's always a chase for me. And it's always playing games I love. I play a lot of games, and I'm okay with that, but for me, again, I can write it off to a degree because of what I do, but ultimately I still spend time doing the things I love. I still spend time on the games that I enjoy. Not as much time as I'd like. There are some games in my collection who have been there for, Yucatan I have not played since it showed up. For All the Mountain King I haven't played since it showed up. Isis Vanguard I haven't played since it showed up. There are so many games, although I don't know if it helps my point or hurts my point, I'm still talking about new games to a degree. Although new games I've played, all those 3 are games that I know I've played and I know I've enjoyed and I need to really give the time to properly, but I keep chasing, well, everything on the table here that's new. I've played the Sea of Thieves, I've demoed Nocturne, and these 2 I haven't touched at all yet. So, I don't know. No strong takeaways, as usual. Not as usual, sorry, that sounds bad. In these types of specific ramblings, no strong takeaway on this message, just other than balance. Balance is the strong takeaway. Just to be mindful of what your goals are. Seek to pursue your goals, but don't seek... It's kind of like, you know what it's like? It's like eating a cookie. I'm all for eating a cookie if you want to eat a cookie. But if on a day-to-day basis you're like, I shouldn't eat cookies, but then you anyways eat the cookie, then let's have a conversation about how to best help you achieve your goals. On the other hand, if you're like, I want to eat a cookie and I'm happy eating a cookie, then go ahead and eat a cookie. Enjoy. More power to you. Have that cookie. Cookies are delicious. I need a cookie, honestly. I should eat a cookie. I probably need some seltzer. I need something. Coffee would be nice too. Or a new board game. I could always play a new board game. Anyways, that's kind of the loose topic of the week, which brings us to the games I played. Games I played, as usual, this is a short recap of some, but not all of the games I've played this past week. A short smattering of the games, starting off with Wizards of the Grimoire, a game that Devin talked about very positively, then Jenna from the Board Game Garden talked about very positively, both of them on the Week in Review, and then from there I finally had a chance to play it, and I enjoy it. I'm not yet in love with it, but I certainly thought it was very clever, and I enjoy the combinations of spells and the way the game system works, and I am intrigued to dive into it more, so I hope to do that at some point. But the first introduction I've had to Wizard of the Grimoire is one that I liked. It's all about trying to gather these cards, and then trying to gather mana cards that power up your cards, and your cards are kind of in this flow of having your mana slowly unsettle from your cards. So a stronger spell requires more mana, and it's going to last and play for longer, but you can have other spells that interact and deal with that in ways that... It's all about the sheer combination of things going on. I thought it was clever. I thought it was well done. The art was kind of a middle of the road for me. Didn't really pull me in, didn't push me away. And there are some elements of the game I'm not yet 100% sure of. But I know I liked it enough to want to dive into it more to see where it goes for me. Then there's Gizmos. Gizmos is a game I haven't played in a very long time, but I finally played it again for the first time in probably like 4 years. And the first time I saw Gizmos, I liked the concept of it. It looked like a very clever little game of tableau building and gathering cards and powering things up in different ways in a way that I would find very enjoyable. And I played Gizmos, and I thought it was okay. And I played it again this past week for the first time in several years, and I again thought it was okay, but possibly a little better than where I left off last time. I thought Gizmos had some clever things happening in it, and it has tableau building, it has lots of cards, and the cards reward you for doing things, so you build up this market of, you're doing X, and then X gets more powerful because you have new cards that power up, and so when you grab a marble, you grab other marbles. When you go ahead and build these cards, you get more cards. You get to go ahead and pick a marble, and then you go ahead and activate the card that powers the marble. It's all about finding these cards that just work together in different ways to improve your engine. And it's fast-paced, and it's well done, and I've enjoyed it, and I don't need to own it, but I'm always happy to play it, I think. I think I enjoyed it without loving it. Then there's Mythic Mischief, which I love. Mythic Mischief I had a chance to play several times this past few weeks. Probably have it like 7 or 8 times by now. But Mythic Mischief just this past like week and a half. But Mythic Mischief I really enjoy. Continuously. I continuously enjoy playing it. I played as all the new factions in Mythic Mischief High Stakes Hijinks. I have played as all of the factions, I think, in the original. I'm pretty sure. I know I played against or as all the factions, but the problem is because I have the memory of how they all operate, but I'm not certain if the memory is from playing against them or playing as them. I've played as most of them and against all of them in some way, shape, or form. But I love that game in all its various forms. Mythic Mischief to me is my favorite game from Ivy Games and one of my favorite games in general. It's just got tactical, abstract strategy that really gives you opportunity to think and to feel clever as you try to figure out to find that perfect pattern, to find those multiple catches and the level up and the tableau building and all that stuff. It's a very well done system that is just very clever as far as abstract strategy goes, and I still continue to enjoy it. And then we have Kingdom Builder. Kingdom Builder, which I got the Deluxified over-the-top big box anniversary edition when they had that Kickstarter for it, as a game that I've loved for a very long time. Played it back in 2012 when I first got into gaming, and I really enjoyed it. And then it kind of shifted. I got, eventually I got rid of it and kept Winter Kingdom. Then I got rid of Winter Kingdom and got Winter Kingdom Builder back, because as much as I think Winter Kingdom does some things cleverer than Kingdom Builder, I think Kingdom Builder is just easier to table and more accessible in that sense. Although I still think that Winter Kingdom has done some things that are pretty clever, so I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I kind of want more Winter Kingdom, but I don't know. Either way, Kingdom Builder. I finally played Kingdom Builder, the deluxe, gigantic box edition, and I still continue to enjoy it. I still think it's a great game. I still think it's a game I'm happy to play. I appreciate the combined rulebook. I appreciate the Deluxified upgraded components. It has a nice degree of table presence, the larger cards, the larger tiles, and the Deluxified unique buildings for each faction. But I just enjoy it. It is a fun time, and it's a game that I'm always happy to play. I like Kingdom Builder, and I'm happy that I own it. And those are going to be a short smattering of the games I played, which brings us to the week in review, starting off with this past Saturday. This past Saturday, I did a review for Explorers from Ravensburger. Explorers is a fun little game of... It's a roll and write game of trying to chart across the map in different ways. It is one of many roll and writes that are both, fun, but also forgettable. I enjoyed Explorers. I do not need to continue to play it. I like it. I did not love it. Later on Saturday, we had a review for Resist from Salt and Pepper Games. This is one that's very interesting because I think gameplay-wise alone, I would put Resist at a 4 out of 5. But ultimately, the problem I had with Resist is that along the way, the main scoring system is one of those do as high as you could scores. Meaning it's not about a specific goal, rather it's about, hey, achieve as many points as you can before the game ends. But at any point, give up, because if you lose, you lose. So, hey, I know you only have X number of points and you really need 3 more, but if you give up now, you can lock in your score. If you keep playing, you can lose entirely. Which is interesting to me, because all I want to do is just go to the very end. Otherwise, choosing to lose and get a score of like 17 when you could have gotten a score of 20 just feels like a weird consolation prize. And so the system itself I think is incredibly clever, incredibly well done, but the actual scoring of it I was not as impressed by. I did like the campaign book. There's a campaign book that kind of gives you a little more actual goals to go through that I thought was a little bit better and a little more well done, but overall this is both an incredibly solid game with a slightly disappointing scoring system. Then on Sunday I had a video of why do most content creators burn out. This is a video inspired, and I should have been very clear on this, I forgot to do that. This is not inspired by myself or any form of burnout I'm going through. I love what I do, thankfully, and not to say that people who experience burnout don't love what they do, but I love what I do and actively am just loving every aspect of it. There's stress in what I do. I push myself hard, but currently there's no burnout at all. What this was inspired by was by somebody else posting a conversation that I thought was a relevant conversation. It's a good reminder to those who are viewers of the content and a good message to those who are engaged in the content, but burnout is a real thing, and there's many reasons for that in the board game space, especially as a content creator. You often are having to work very hard for a very non-financially worth it field. So it has to come from love, but love very quickly turns into work, and then there's work without enough pay, and it's a very complicated sphere to be in or to try to be in. It's a lot of fun, and those who have managed to make it work for themselves are generally very happy people there, but that doesn't mean that there's not a degree of burnout or waking up one day and realizing that it's time to turn to something else because you just need to make something else work. But yeah, that was Sunday's video. Then on Monday we had 2 back-to-back going through a bunch of variety of crafting campaigns. On Tuesday we had Isofarian Guard, a bit of a preview video because it's about talking about the new content, but I haven't played the new content, so it's the closest thing you'll get to a straight-up preview from myself. I mean, we'll have previews on the channel, but usually I don't do those. It was an unpaid preview. I just did it because I like Isofarian Guard. Then later on Tuesday we had a Cretaceous Rails review. This is a review of Cretaceous Rails. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed Cretaceous Rails. Some of the elements of the game, visually or whatnot, didn't pull me in as much, and I had some small complaints about gameplay, but overall I thought the tableau building was very rewarding, and I really enjoyed Cretaceous Rails. later on Tuesday, or lastly on Tuesday, we had an interview for Lorcana. An interview with Ryan Miller from done at Gen Con. He's one of the co-designers of Lorcana, asking him questions, going through things. I would have asked about the horrific shortage of, Lorcana cards if I had known, but I didn't know yet because that was in the past. That happened at Gen Con, that interview. Then on Wednesday we had a gameplay for 20 Strong, going into the 20 Strong Hoplo decks. I still plan on doing a 20 Strong gameplay for the Too Many Bones decks, but so far I've done Solar Sentinels and Hoplo, and we'll do Too Many Bones a little bit later. Then later on Wednesday, we had a Q&A, just myself, no Jenna, Devin, and Meg in the show, just myself going through regular Q&A, answering your questions, as I still try to do, every few weeks to mix it up and to make sure, well, it usually happens when other people can't show up, but I specifically want there to be a Q&A, so if it didn't happen on its own naturally, I'd push for it, because I like that additional level of interaction, not just the weekly live. I mean, the weekly live is fun, make no mistake. But anyways, that's going to be Wednesday. And the last day on Wednesday, I had an unboxing for Ice. I was just going through an unboxing with my son, just unboxing Ice. It was less of an exciting unboxing than I thought it would be, because it's basically just tiles and components. But it was fun to a degree. But that was lastly on Wednesday. Which brings us to Thursday. Thursday, we had the top 10 solo games. Going through my updated top 10 solo games, I haven't done a top 10 solo games video in 3 years. And so I had to do it again to kind of, talk again about where we are, where my opinion has changed, what's currently front of mind for me, and I go through the top 10 solo games I have as of right now. Which brings us to Friday. Hello. Hey, Yoda, what's up? Okay, go ahead and take your medicine. I'll be up in a minute. I'll be done in a minute, buddy. It's my son catching my attention. I heard a little noise. Friday. Brings us to Friday. Friday we had video on GameFound. We had a video on GameFound reflecting on the past year, my past year at GameFound, how I've been balancing different, life, GameFound, all these various things, and so that was a video that went up Friday. And then we also had also hopefully, if things went well, we had a 2-back or not to back look back. This is a new series we're starting on the channel where possibly every week, possibly every other week, possibly whenever, we're going to be doing a bit of a conversation on the 2-back or not to back video that goes up Monday, answering your questions on crowdfunding, your questions on specific campaigns, your questions on campaigns that I missed or campaigns that I covered, just going through your questions in general on the 2-back or not to back look back series, which hopefully went up Friday. And then we have today. That brings us to today. Today we have a few things. We have a video going up for, again, hopefully on some of these, but we have Feud going up, a review of Feud, which is currently actively on Kickstarter, as well as a preview for Rogue Angels that would be going up as well. That was supposed to be going up earlier in the week. There's some audio issues with the file. It's going up today instead. And then lastly, we have next week, or not lastly, second lastly, because we still have the games on the table, but going up next week, we have a few videos as usual. We have games leaving the collection, and a bunch of other things that I forget because I didn't take notes of them, but I can't remember what else we have going up next week, but there are a bunch of things. There's going to be a review for Mythic Mischief, there's going to be a review for, I'm trying to remember what else we have. We have Mythic Mischief going up, we have a review for Fromage going up, we have a preview for Theme Park Mania going up. A whole bunch of things will be going up this next week. And that brings us to the games on the table. As usual, the games on the table are games I hope to be tabling in the next week or so. And we have Kohaku from 20th Century Games, so I've never actually tabled and want to give it a shot. I recently played Junk Drawer and really loved that from 20th Century. And I'm curious how Kohaku is because I know it's generally held up. We also have The Perfect Wave from the OP. This is a newer game. I've read the rules. I'm prepped to go on this one. I just need to actually play it. Then we have Sea of Thieves, which I've had a chance to play, but I want to table it again because I want to review this one, and I need more than one play under my belt to be able to do so. So I'm hoping to be able to sit down this week and table it. So at some point I can turn around and give you a review, because I've had a lot of people asking for a review of Sea of Thieves. I think it just hasn't been in circulation a lot and hasn't been talked about, but I plan on talking about it once I actually play it more. And then lastly we have Nocturne from Flat Out Games. Nocturne from Flat Out Games, this can be their newest game. They have obviously Cascadia, Calico, Fit to Print, Verdant, all those things, and Nocturne is going to be their newest game if you don't count Cascadia Landmarks, which I want to play Cascadia Landmarks so badly, but that is a conversation for another day. In any case, then until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have an excellent week, and as always, I hope you have a good one.